In the remote mountains of western North Carolina, where morning fog drifts slowly across forested ridges and rivers carve their way through ancient rock, a wall of concrete rises against the sky. It does not curve gracefully like some modern dams. It does not rely on architectural beauty for attention. Instead, it stands massive, solid and immovable, like a mountain built by human hands. Fontana Dam is more than a structure. It is a story written in urgency, sacrifice, innovation, and transformation. To understand its full history, we must travel back to a time before it existed, before the lake, before the turbines, before the quiet hum of electricity. Long before engineers arrived with blueprints, the little Tennessee River flowed freely through narrow valleys. The river was wild and seasonal. During heavy rains, it would swell and surge, flooding farmland and isolating communities. During dry months, its water level would drop, exposing gravel banks and slowing commerce. For generations, local families adapted to the river's rhythm. Farms lined its edges. Small towns grew along its banks. Life was simple, rural, and deeply connected to the land. In the early 20th century, much of the Tennessee Valley region lacked reliable electricity. While large cities in America were modernizing, many Appalachian communities still relied on kerosene lamps. Flooding destroyed crops, soil erosion stripped hillsides. Poverty was widespread, infrastructure was limited. In 1933, during the Great Depression, the United States government created the Tennessee Valley Authority. The TVA was not just a power company. It was a massive federal experiment in regional transformation. Its goals were ambitious: build dams for flood control, generate hydroelectric power, improve navigation, reduce poverty, and stimulate economic development across the Tennessee Valley. Engineers began surveying rivers throughout the region. Among them was the Little Tennessee River. They identified a dramatic stretch where steep mountain walls narrowed the valley. The rock formations were strong. The elevation drop was significant. It was a nearly perfect location for a very tall gravity dam. But during the 1930s, resources were limited. Several other dams were prioritized first. Fontana remained a proposal, important but not urgent. Then came December 7, 1941. The attack on Pearl Harbor changed everything. The United States entered World War II, and the nation's entire industrial system shifted into wartime production. Aircraft manufacturing became critical. Aluminum became one of the most strategic materials in the world, and aluminum production required enormous amounts of electricity. Suddenly, power generation was not simply about modernization, it was about national survival. TVA engineers accelerated plans for the largest dam yet proposed in the eastern United States. The federal government classified the project as essential to the war effort. Funding materials were allocated despite nationwide shortages. In January 1942, construction began. The location was remote and rugged. Access roads barely existed. Before the dam could rise, crews had to carve roads into mountainsides, construct rail spurs, and establish supply depots. Heavy machinery was transported piece by piece into terrain that had never seen such equipment. Temporary housing complexes were built almost overnight. Thousands of workers, engineers, carpenters, concrete specialists, welders, mechanics arrived from across the country. At peak construction, more than 5,000 workers labored at the site. The small community of Fontana transformed into a wartime construction town. Barracks lined hillsides. Mess halls operated around the clock. Medical facilities treated injuries common in large industrial projects. Despite wartime rationing, morale remained focused. Workers understood the urgency. Their labor was directly tied to aircraft production and ultimately to soldiers overseas. The design selected was a concrete gravity dam. Unlike an arch dam that curves to distribute pressure into canyon walls, a gravity dam depends entirely on its weight to resist water force. This meant one thing: massive amounts of concrete. Nearly 3 million cubic yards would be required. Concrete was poured in blocks, carefully layered to manage temperature and prevent cracking. Engineers monitored curing processes continuously. If the internal temperature rose too high, cracks could compromise structural integrity. Cooling pipes were embedded within the concrete to regulate heat, a technique refined during earlier dam projects. Construction operated day and night. Floodlights illuminated the valley after sunset. Cranes swung heavy buckets of concrete high above the rising wall. Dynamite blasted rock foundations. The sound of machinery echoed across the mountains. Meanwhile, local families faced difficult realities. As the dam grew taller, it became clear that the valley upstream would soon disappear beneath rising water. Over 300 families were relocated. Farms were purchased. Cemeteries were moved. Churches were dismantled or abandoned. Entire communities faded into memory. When the dam was structurally complete in 1944, it stood 80 feet tall. becoming the tallest dam in the eastern United States, a record it still holds. As the gates closed, water began to rise behind the wall. Slowly, valleys filled. Forests were submerged. Roads vanished. The reservoir formed what we now know as Fontana Lake, stretching approximately 29 miles through winding mountain terrain. One of the roads submerged was North Carolina Highway 288. The government promised to construct a replacement highway through the nearby Great Smoky Mountains National Park. Construction began but was never fully completed. Today, the unfinished section is often called the Road to Nowhere, a quiet reminder of promises made during wartime urgency. Inside the powerhouse at the base of the dam, 3 massive turbines were installed. When water was released from the reservoir, it rushed downward through penstocks, spinning turbine blades connected to generators. Mechanical energy converted into electrical power. That electricity traveled to aluminum plants in Alcoa. There, aluminum was smelted for aircraft production. Planes built with that aluminum would fly in combat missions across Europe and the Pacific. Fontana Dam, though hidden in the mountains, became part of the global war effort. When World War II ended in 1945, the dam's mission shifted but did not diminish. Instead of supporting wartime aluminum demand, it powered post-war growth. Rural electrification expanded. Industries developed. Economic stability increased across the Tennessee Valley region. Flood control proved equally important. Seasonal storms that once caused destructive downstream flooding were now managed through reservoir storage and controlled water release. The dam became part of a larger TVA network of river management. Over the decades, maintenance and modernization continued. Turbines were upgraded for efficiency. Monitoring systems were computerized. Structural inspections became routine. Despite being built under wartime urgency, the dam demonstrated remarkable durability. Environmental impact evolved over time. The transformation of a flowing river into a reservoir changed ecosystems. Some species adapted. Recreational fishing flourished. Boating became popular. The surrounding mountains, now reflected in calm lake waters, created scenic landscapes that attracted tourists. The Appalachian Trail was rerouted across the top of the dam. For thousands of hikers each year, crossing Fontana Dam marks a significant milestone before entering the Smoky Mountains. Standing atop the concrete wall, hikers look across the vast reservoir and often pause to consider the scale of human engineering beneath their feet. Today, Fontana Dam remains operational and structurally sound. It continues generating hydroelectric power. It continues managing floodwaters. It continues shaping regional identity. More than 80 years after its completion, the dam represents multiple chapters of American history: the Great Depression's call for reform, the urgency of World War II industrialization, the sacrifices of displaced communities, and the enduring promise of renewable energy. At sunrise, mist still rises from Fontana Lake. At sunset, the concrete face glows warm against mountain shadows. The turbines still hum deep within the structure, and the water, once wild and unpredictable, now flows with controlled purpose. Fontana Dam stands as a monument to urgency turned into permanence. Built in crisis, sustained in peace, and integrated into the landscape, it remains one of the most significant engineering achievements in the eastern United States.